Bob Everett, and I was the original deputy principal of this school, starting in February 1969, and we had 240 first year students. That was all 11 teachers and 2 clerical assistants, and it was a very small group, but a new school's something different. It was very exciting actually. Every day there was new stuff.
We were the first students through Figtree High School. It was a brand new school, and how much excitement can you get to be the first students to go through a brand new school? So in 1969, about 250 of us from a varied amount of schools around the district came through the front gates.
The Latin words on the emblem are crescere, which means to grow, fidere, which means to have faith or trust, and stature, which means to stand tall. These were words Dad reflected on as being parallel to the students' development at school. The mountains, the tree, were symbols of the buildings, teachers and students. To grow, to have faith and trust, and to stand tall.
Probably about 3 words could sum up my 30 years of teaching at this school. They would be interesting, stimulating and rewarding. Now, interesting came very, very early in my stay. I was at Figtree High School for less than a week when I noticed a very strong student desire to be put in a sporting team and play for their school.
Yeah, I've also got a lot of fond memories of schoolmates, rugby league mates, sports mates. As Paul mentioned, this school was a fantastic school to be brought up in the sporting arena.
I have very fond memories of the school, of the teachers I taught with and the many students that passed through when I was here. But of course my fondest memories are of sporting achievements and of students that were involved heavily in sport.
I did my HSC here in '81, and it was an interesting time because back then the HSC was just one exam on one day. So really didn't probably put the best effort in for the first couple of years, which I shouldn't say, but I did. And we did all right.
I have a few significant memories from that time. One, I remember going to a lot of school discos. They were lots of fun, very loud, so many students there, really great times. And that was because there were about 1,400 students at Figtree High at the time, so there were a lot of students.
One really great memory was in year 11, and we went with maths. They organised our excursion to Rose Hill races for the topic of probability, and we were allowed to place bets. So back in 1978, this was the late 70s, these things went on, and now they wouldn't, but I'm sure we, possibly that was just something that, we did with the times, things happened like that. Another great memory, the back bridge. You guys have this wonderful, perfect little bridge down the back that you just walk across and take for granted every day. But when I came to this school, there was no bridge. And if you lived on the northern side of the creek, of American Creek, and it rained the night before, you'd have to walk around. And if you didn't want to walk around, you'd turn up early in the morning and make your own bridge, which is what we did. And then the next flood would come along and take our bridge away, and we'd have to build another one. And sometimes on Sunday afternoon, we would come down here and build the bridge ready for Monday morning.
The grounds themselves were still pretty rough. The creek still hadn't been developed to be flood free, so we had some floods. And one particular flood I remember, on that lower flat there were cattle gathering on a little bit of high ground, and the flood came up and up and up, and they had to take off and swim, and a lot of them actually drowned down on the football field there. It was a different time altogether.
One of the things that Dad really wanted was to have a hall in the school. And there were a number of suggestions, some of which were quite out there, like a hall that you blew up and then poured concrete over the top of, so it was like a big dome. But he said no to that, fortunately, because the hall you have now is so much nicer.
Finally, there was money given, I think it was about $2 million, to build the auditorium, and that started in 2007 and it was opened in 2008. Barbara and I were very pleased to be able to come back for that opening.
My favourite memory of Figtree High School was the Year 12, muck-up, but we didn't muck up. We all got dressed up as our favourite teacher. I was Miss Savage, and that was a really good time.
I particularly remember fondly Ian and Maureen Waters and Steve Timon, all of which I see now. Steve, in part, is partly responsible for why I'm here today. Encouraged me to study economics at university and encouraged me to embrace my interest in politics at the time, to the same extent that now, 20 odd years on, I'm in the New South Wales Parliament. Steve did an endorsement piece for my by-election campaign and even stood on a polling booth. Shows the connection, I guess, between students and staff that lasts a lifetime, to be honest.
I have one story that always sticks in my mind about Figtree High School. It wasn't anything in particular, but it was the day we were having staff photographs taken. And in those days, we all were lined up in the middle of the quad. So we were in, I think we were lined up all in front of Lab 3 and 4, but unbeknownst to us, at the back of that block, there were a group of boys who wanted to see if it was possible to actually throw a water bomb right over the top of the building. They didn't know that the staff were there having their photos taken. Well, one boy, who really I think should have been chosen for the Australian cricket team, actually threw the bomb right over the top of the school, landed in front of the staff, and to this day there's a photograph somewhere in this school where there's a staff photo with this great big puddle of water right in the front. And of course everyone ran everywhere and this boy was going to be hanged, drawn and quartered, but unfortunately he really had no intentions of hitting the staff at all, and he came around and he owned up that that's what he was doing.
One of my fondest memories of being here is, I suppose, working with some of the great kids.
Figtree High was really a supportive and an encouraging environment, and it was a very grounded environment. There was no pretentiousness about who we were as students or pretentiousness in terms of the teachers. There was a real grounding, and when I reflect on that, I think that's been a crucial part of my success.
I enjoyed having my son attend the school at the same time as when I was teaching for about 6 or 7 years.
Probably the highlights, I'd say, is the relationship between the teachers. I think there's such wonderful staff.
Some of my fondest memories as a student at Figtree High School would probably have to be seeing your friends every day. There's not many other opportunities after school where you can spend every day 6 hours with your friends.
You know, you walk around the playground, it's a friendly school. This has always been a friendly school. The students, the sort of young people you can just strike up a conversation with and chat about everyday things, and they do that very, very well.
I just love the school. It's very simple. I just really enjoyed it. One of the things that I noticed most when I moved here, because I was working in Liverpool, Campbelltown for 14 years, and I came back to the Illawarra where I've always lived, my heart's here. And one of the things I noticed most about Figtree was the sense of community. It was just such an amazing sense of community.
So Figtree High School has been a huge part of my life, and I love the community, I love the students that came out of here. A couple of highlights for me is the boys baseball team more recently, and I got to go in the dugouts when we were in the final 2 of the state knockout baseball competition. And probably another highlight was we did dancing with the staff here a few years ago, and Denise Quinn and I used to be partners, and we did the Can one year, and we also did the Nutcracker with some students, and that was a real highlight. We actually won that, so that was pretty exciting at the time.
I was at the school for 13 years and had a great time here. The staff were all enthusiastic, and the students also.
I don't know how I was talked into it, but we managed to get a group of musicians, you might know them, the choir boys. So we had the choir boys performing in the quadrangle. I don't know that I've ever had as many complaints from neighbours, the district, the police, the Department of Education as we had with the choir boys.
Lots of fond memories about this place. I was here for so long. There are many things that come to mind. Nothing specific. There are many, many good students and a great staff at this school. And it's probably the one feature that stood out about the place.
I guess coming back here, you sort of, a couple of memories come to mind. I guess a lot of my memories would be more around the sporting side of it with the school, more so than the academic, admittedly, as my parents will certainly confirm.
One of the significant things is friendships, and many of the people who I were fortunate to share my time with at Figtree High School are still my friends today, and my treasured and dearest friends.
Some of the things that I noticed straight away when I arrived at this school in 2016 were how helpful and friendly and willing that our students here were. I noticed the diversity of the students in the school and was really proud to be in an environment where kids embraced each other for the different backgrounds that they had.
There was one trip where we had, and Robbie Noakes will remember this one, in Queanbeyan, where we're billeted, instead of being billeted out, we're put into single stretchers underneath the grandstand in the middle of winter with a couple of blankets, and it was cold. So halfway through the night, I'm shivering like anything. I'd known Noakesy since I was 6-year-old, and at one point in time I said, Noakesy, you have to move over. I've got to get in, I'm freezing here. So jumped in, dragged the blankets across, a few blokes saw it, and I think there was others that partnered up.
Our family has a long history at Figtree High School. My children came here, Michael Yatras and Stephanie Yatras, and Lee's children came here, and Joe's children came here as well. Michael lives away from the area, so his kids didn't come here. My granddaughter is at Mount St Thomas, and I presume that in 4 years' time she will also. So that will be our third generation of people who come to Figtree High from our family.
And so today we've had 68 years of education through Figtree High, and I wouldn't have my kids go anywhere else. I've got 4 children and one of them still here.
As I said, over the years I've lost touch with a lot of the close school friends that I knew and grew up with, and I'm hoping that this 50th anniversary brings a lot of people together and a lot of people, and we can kind of reconnect and find a way, face to face, and old school friends that I fondly remember.
I definitely do miss being here, and especially being around all my mates. I definitely do miss the camaraderie and all the laughs and fun times that we all had together.
Our favourite memory at school was the Premier Sporting Challenge, where we travelled down to Berry and worked with a whole bunch of other kids from different schools.
Another highlight from school was the great friendships that we made and our group that we still have at the moment.
And another one was the school snow trip where we went down to Jindabyne, Perisher, same thing. And we had so much fun learning all new things and stuff.
Year 12 was the best year at school. All the teacherverse student sport events, all the excursions were fun, and just it was really laid back and chill besides all the assignments and stuff.
Fond memories have been obviously my sporting, as well as I'll play as many sports as I can, which has been really good, and the school camps and all that has been good as well.
I said to my family when I got home, this school is the best kept secret on the South Coast. I work with the most respectful and talented students, compassionate and hardworking staff, and friendly and welcoming parents and families. A particular highlight for me has been the NAIDOC Week celebrations. I was so impressed by the performances and the spirit of the students, the collective creation of artworks, teachers dancing around students on assembly, and I think most of all, that very strong sense of community.